Hello, y'all, and welcome back. So in the last two modules, we explored Stoicism and Epicureanism, respectively, two Hellenistic schools, which, while they differ in many respects, have as their core aim the same thing: a calm, tranquil, peaceful existence in the midst of the hustle and bustle of everyday life, work, school, bills, traffic. And they promise to deliver this tranquility or peace to you through philosophy, through changing your mind or thinking in some way. But they differ very sharply on how you get there, and we saw this, right? The Stoics are hyper-rationalist. You train every impression, which is actually a judgment, okay, that something is good or bad, and in all cases, that judgment is false. So you train yourself to have true judgments, so you're hyper-rationalist again. You rid yourself of false belief, and then you have this tranquility because you don't hold anything very tightly. Everything's neutral to you. The Epicureans go the opposite direction. They're empiricists, they're hedonists, think as little as possible. They just have a few core beliefs, right? You hang on to these, but you really kind of go with your gut, go with your feeling, and again, to pursue tranquility. And things like virtue, being a good person are very important to both these schools, but the goal ultimately is this kind of internal state. Now, these schools are contemporaries, and they're constantly in dialogue, and this dialogue, discussion between them shows up everywhere. The most entertaining record of a dialogue between Stoics and Epicureans is no doubt Cicero's book on moral ends, De Finibus Bonum et Malorum, where there's a lot going on in this book, but it's essentially a Stoic and Epicurean kind of roasting each other for about 200 pages. There's another perspective comes in at the end, which Cicero obviously thinks is the correct one, more of an Aristotelian perspective, but a lot of it is this kind of back and forth. That, I say, is the most entertaining. The most famous record of Stoics and Epicureans arguing back and forth over how to achieve this tranquil, good life is no doubt in the Bible. In the book of Acts, chapter 17, the Apostle Paul has basically got a layover in Athens, about 3 days. And being an ideas guy, he does what ideas guys do. He says, where are people discussing ideas? And he goes there. It's a place called Mars Hill. And the author of Acts tells us that Stoics and Epicureans are there. They hang out all day, quote, arguing about philosophy all day. They did nothing else. That's what we're told, at least. So Paul goes there and he hears their ideas. So the Stoics and Epicureans argue back and forth about how to achieve the tranquil good life, and they differ very sharply, and they're very familiar with each other's arguments. And these disagreements, these arguments between them often get quite intense. They get quite heated to the point even of being personal, even like personal attacks, which is, of course, deeply ironic because they're losing their cool arguing about how to not lose your cool, how to keep your cool, maintain tranquility, and they're losing their cool arguing over this. This irony is not lost on a third group of thinkers. And the group of thinkers, what we're going to be looking at in this module, is the Pyrrhonian Skeptics. The Pyrrhonian Skeptics. Pyrrhonian Skeptics are followers of Pyrrho of Elea, a figure who we don't know very much about. This person didn't write anything down, had disciples though, but according to all accounts, really truly believed nothing. And the idea here tracks with what the Pyrrhonian Skeptics are observing with the Stoics and Epicureans. You see, the Stoics and Epicureans lose their cool arguing about how to not lose your cool. And it seems to the Pyrrhonian Skeptics quite evident that the cause of their problem is not false belief, but belief just as such. Belief, period. Belief, full stop, as our British friends would say. Anytime you hold any belief at all, big or small, that is your special little picture of how the world is. And when that picture of how the world is challenged, again, in a big or small way, you're going to get defensive. You're going to want to protect that. You're going to want to be right. We're threatened by the idea that what we think is not correct. And whether you successfully defend this belief or not, that feeling of being threatened, that is itself going to endanger your tranquility. That is, in effect, the loss of your tranquility. And we touch on this in the exercise discussion question for this module. So the first question is a time that you were discussing something with someone and you found yourself losing your cool. I give some examples, or an example rather, in the discussion question reply. But this happens to us, depending on our personality, either more or less frequently. Often it's something more controversial, like politics or religion or some social issue, but it absolutely doesn't have to be. I had a student one semester who said that his entire senior year was riven, was just split into two factions because of a silly little dispute that a kid started about who would win in a fight between a rhinoceros and a hippo. And it was just like purely frivolous, but people really got into it, and then they really got into it, and then it like ruined friendships, and people got like really personal, okay? Just silly, because obviously we'd be the rhino. It's not even a discussion, right? So we've lost our cool in different contexts, right? But more pertinent, I think, would be that second question I ask. What is a time, and this is tricky, but I think all of us can give some answer if we think hard enough, a time that you were present when two or more people were discussing some topic and they started to lose their cool, but you kept your cool because you didn't care? Again, as an example, this can be challenging to think of, but we've all been there. The most immediate and obvious example is, of course, if you've been in a situation where you're watching a sporting event and you don't care who wins. Like, you really don't care. You're not from either place. You don't have family in either place. You don't like either team better. And if you're with people who really do care and get very invested, they can lose their cool very quickly. And you have this detached feeling of neutrality or tranquility. Now, curiously enough, a lot of people I know, they happen to be all guys, I don't know what that says, can't stand this feeling of watching a sporting event and not being really emotionally invested. So what do they do to make sure that they are emotionally invested in the game? Put some money on it. And I think the entire multi-billion-dollar industry of sports gambling is kind of resting on this need that a lot of men, not exclusively men, but mostly men, have to be really invested in sports. It's a rush of some kind. Okay, I don't think a lot of people are making tons and tons of money off this, although maybe some people are. It's primarily this desire to feel invested. But if you're not invested, if you have this detached feeling of tranquility, that, say the skeptics, is the goal for everything, every situation. You're hearing a political debate, left and right, okay, and you really don't care. And it could be a lot of reasons why you don't care. Maybe you think that the issue is too small and insignificant to care about. Or maybe conversely, you might feel like it's such an enormous issue that who could ever really settle this? Who could really kind of ever know? And anyone that claims to know is just kind of, it's empty boasting. Or, third, you might feel, and this would be the true goal for the skeptic, you might feel that arguments on both sides are so equally balanced that you really yourself can't see who is right. It just sort of seems like both sides are making excellent points. So in whatever way, okay, you feel this detached tranquility, you don't care. And as I say, and we kind of work on this in the exercise discussion question, we've all been there at some point with regard to some particular issue or belief. But for the Pyrrhonian skeptics, the goal is to get there for literally all beliefs. So every single belief, whether it's something in your visual field, it's a theoretical belief, a religious belief, political, whatever, the goal is to get there. So the basic idea then is that you protect your tranquility, you protect your ataraxia by completely dropping all beliefs. So a Pyrrhonian skeptic has no beliefs. Many questions that initial premise raises, and we'll address those questions in the next video. Thanks.